Hey, what's up? In this video, we're going to talk about financial instruments. Ano ba ito? Ano ba yung kahalagaan nitong financial instruments? Saka ito ba'y asset, liability, or equity? Well, sasagutin natin ang ilang mga katanungan about financial instruments, which is under PAS number 32. For the meantime, stay tuned. Well, bago tayo mag-proceed dun sa ating video para dito sa financial instruments, gusto ko munang batiin lahat ng mga teachers, especially dito sa Philippines, no? Happy Teachers Day. So, yung mga estudyanteng nanonood dyan, so batiin nyo naman sila ma'am, sila sir, sila dean, no? Or sila prof, no? Ng Happy Teachers Day. Okay, so without much ado, let's proceed now to our lesson for this session. Now, what is a financial instrument? PAS 32 paragraph 11 defines financial instruments as any contract that gives rise to a financial asset of one entity and a financial liability or equity instruments of another entity. In other words, itong financial instrument encompasses assets, liabilities, and equity. So, halimbawa, nag-enter ako ng sa contract of sale, no? Nakabenta ako ng merchandise sa buyer, no? So, dalawa yung parties doon. There's the seller and the buyer. Now, assuming yung naibenta kong goods is on account, so accounts receivable siya. So hindi pa natatanggap yung pera, tatanggapin pa lang. So in essence, yung seller, no, meron siyang financial asset in the form of that receivable. Yung yung kabila naman on the part of the buyer, meron naman siyang payable, no, because it's on account. Now, pagdating naman dito sa equity, let's say yung isang corporation nag-issue siya ng mga stocks para doon sa in public, no, para doon sa mga tao, no. Now, yung corporation na yon, no, it is an equity doon sa corporation para doon sa let's say doon sa ibang corporation or kung sino man yung nakabili, no, yung investor, no, para sa kanila that is a financial asset. So, the characteristics of a financial asset is that there are three actually characteristics. Number one is that there is a contract. Pangalawa is that there are at least two parties to a contract. And number three, the contract gives rise to a financial asset on one entity and financial liability or equity instruments to another party. So examples of financial instrument include cash in the form of notes and coins. So this is a financial asset of the holder or bearer and a financial liability of the issuing government. The next one is cash in the form of checks. So this is a financial assets of the payee and a financial liability naman dun sa drawer o yung nag-issue ng cheque. Yung pangatlo is cash in bank. So this is a financial asset of the depositor and a financial liability of the depositary bank. So pagka nagdi-deposit tayo sa bangko, normally, pera actually kahit anong oras natin pwedeng gustong i-withdraw yun, nasa sa atin yun, no? So we're actually the depositor, sa atin yung financial asset na yun, pero nandun sa bangko, sila yung sa kanila, that is a financial liability. And the next one is trade accounts. This is a financial asset of the seller, katulad nung example kanina, no? And the financial liability dun naman sa customer or buyer. Note and loan, this is a financial asset of the lender or creditor as note receivable, and a financial liability of the borrower or debtor as note payable or loan payable. The next one is debt security. This is a financial asset of the investor and a financial liability of the issuer. And finally, the equity security. This is a financial asset of the investor and an equity of the issuer. There are also examples of financial assets. These include cash and coins, cash in bank, and of course itong mga liquid assets like trade accounts receivable, yung notes receivable, loans receivable, and bonds receivable. Now, kung merong mga financial assets, meron rin mga non-financial assets, no? Ang ilan diyan are yung physical assets, no? Like yung inventory, yan, property, plant and equipment, of course yung mga building, yan. So these are part of non-financial assets, no? Yung lupa, no? And yung pangalawa is yung intangible assets. Ito yung assets na hindi natin nakikita, no? Or yung walang physical substance, like for example yung mga patents na yung trademark, no? And the next one is yung prepaid expenses. Ito yung mga in advance natin yung payment, tapos meron tayong matatanggap na serbisyo in the future. And yung mga leased properties or yung the right to use, no? So these are part of non-financial assets. Para naman dun sa financial liabilities, meron naman mga ikaw naman yung kung ikaw yung may utang, ikaw naman yung ta-transfer ng cash, no? So kabaliktaran naman yung kanina dun sa financial assets. So an example of this dito sa financial liability is yung accounts payable, yung trade accounts payable. So yung kung kanina merong accounts receivable, yung seller, ikaw naman being the buyer, you have the right to pay the seller. So accounts payable sa iyo yan. So and the next one is yung notes payable. Tapos yung the third one is the loans payable, and the last one is yung bonds payable. Now, kung merong mga non-financial assets kanina, meron ring non-financial liabilities such as deferred revenue, no? Or yung sa mga warranty liability, and yung income tax payable, just to name a few. Sa equity naman, ito lang yung sa basic definition ng yung accounting equation, like assets, liabilities, and equity. So pagka equity naman, equity is just depicted dito sa E is equal to A less L, or equity is equal to assets less liability. So ito yung parang net worth, no? Na para na dun sa may-ari, dun sa investor. Para naman dun sa compound financial instruments, ito yung bang dalawa yung niya, meron siyang liability portion saka merong equity portion. Now, under PAS 32 paragraph 28 defines a compound financial instrument as a financial instrument that contains both a liability and an equity element from the perspective of the issuer. In other words, one component of the financial instrument meets the definition of a financial liability, and another definition of the financial instrument meets the definition of the financial equity. So example dito is yung mga may warrants, no? For example, yung mga bonds payable with share warrants, no? So meron siyang equity portion as well as yung liability portion. And another thing is yung mga convertible bonds, no? Convertible bonds converted into shares of a stock. Now, how do we account for compound financial instruments? Now, it is on the discretion of the issuer kung paano niya i-account yung compound financial instruments, whether ano yung portion na liability and ano yung portion na equity. Now, under PAS 32, it defines that if the financial instrument has both the characteristic of a liability and an equity, it should be accounted for as separately. So this is what is known as split accounting. So this means that the total consideration received from the issuance of the compound financial instruments would be allocated dun sa components ng liability and equity. So the first step there is to determine the fair value of the liability. And then kung yung pag na-determine na natin yung liability, then i-less natin dun sa total consideration to get the yung equity portion. So yung matitira or the residual would be allocated doon sa equity portion. So without much ado, let's move forward doon sa computation ito. Now let's take this up, itong example na to, no? Okay, to reinforce our learning. At the beginning of the current year, Case Company issued a 5 million of 12% non-convertible 5-year bonds at 103. So dito sa 103 na yan, kasama na dito yung compound financial instrument, which include yung liability portion, yung liability component, and the equity component. In addition, each 1,000 bond was issued with 30 detachable share warrants. Okay, so may kasamang shares yun. So kaya dalawang components yun. Each of which entitled the bondholder to purchase for 50 pesos one ordinary share of Case Company with a par value of 25. The quoted market value of each warrant, so kailangan natin to para sa pag-compute ng liability mamaya, of each warrant was 4. Dun sa warrant, 4 pesos. And market value of the bonds, X warrants, so excluding the warrants at the time, is 95. So this must be the market value of the liability, 95. So the question here for letter A is, what is the carrying amount of the bonds payable? So kung yung total niya is 5 million, no? Incidentally, if you want to check out yung video about bonds payable, there's a link I placed somewhere in this video. So this is 5 million. This is the face amount of the bonds, no? Okay, the face of the bonds. The compound. Wala ako tuloy doon instruments. Okay, so this is 5 million. So multiply lang natin by 95, no? Or 95%. So makukuha natin dyan, no? So you may use your calculator, but I can just look at it, no? So this would be 4,750,000. So that's 5 million times 0.95. Ito kasi yung market price nung bonds payable without the warrants. So ito na yon. Now, what amount of the proceeds from the bond issue should be recognized as an increase in shareholders' equity? So ito naman yung equity portion. Now, in order to compute for this, so kunin muna natin yung total. Okay, total compound. Or compound na lang. May total na, may compound pa. No? Parang redundant. So, compound financial instrument. Ay na lang, Yan. Okay, so, pag-compute niyan is, baba natin konti. Yan. This is 5 million times 103. Okay? Or 103%, no? 103%. So that must be, ito kailangan na ng calculator dito. Ayan, so para hindi tayo magkamali. So this is 5 million times 1.03. So this would be 5,150,000. Now, ito yung total. Ililess lang natin dito. Okay, yung, hope you can see it. Ayan. Ito yung nakuha natin dito, yung sa liability. Okay, liability instrument. Okay? which is 4,750,000. Yan. Now, kunin lang natin yung difference. This would be 400,000. So 5,150,000 less 4,750,000. This is 400,000. So this is an increase in equity. Ito yung equity, okay, component of the compound financial instrument. Another example, no? So Marian Company is issued 5 million face amount of 12% convertible bonds at 110. So ano yan? So this is a compound financial instrument. At the beginning of the current year, the bonds pay interest semi-annually on January 1 and July 1. It is estimated that the bonds would sell only at 102 without the conversion feature. So kung yung bonds lang, yung market value niya is 102. Each 1,000 peso bond is convertible into 10 ordinary shares. So ito yung equity component niya with 100 par value. What is the increase? Again, what is the increase of the shareholders' equity arising from the original issuance on the convertible bonds payable? So similar to what we have did a while ago, kukunin muna natin yung total compound instrument, yung value niya. So that would be yung total compound. Yan na naman. So compound financial instrument, so this is 5 million times 110%. So that would be, so computin natin okay, so ayan, so this is 5 million times 1.1. This would be 5,500,000. And then yung less natin dito yung financial liability or yung bonds payable / bonds payable. So the bonds payable is 5 million. So excluding the rate or excluding the yung conversion feature, it would be 102%. So this would be 5,100,000. We're just looking at this now. So, kunin lang natin difference. This would be 400,000. Itong 400,000 na to, this is the equity, okay, equity component of the compound instrument. So, 400,000 there. So, if you have any questions or any suggestions, no? Just write down yung comments nyo and subscribe. God bless, take care, and keep your hands clean.